Officer Martinez slams his palm against the glass storefront as 17-year-old Zara Washington stands frozen, her shopping bags scattered across the sidewalk like fallen leaves. The sound echoes through the busy downtown Seattle street, causing dozens of shoppers to turn and stare. "Maybe if your people learned to shop where they belong, we wouldn't have these problems," he sneers, his voice carrying loud enough for everyone within 30 feet to hear every calculated word. Zara's hands tremble slightly as she stares at the receipts now fluttering in the afternoon breeze. Her Stanford acceptance letter peeks out from her purse, a stark contrast to the humiliation unfolding before the growing crowd of onlookers. Some pull out phones, others simply watch in uncomfortable silence. What happens next will expose a truth so shocking that it will change everything you think you know about power, assumptions, and the dangerous game of judging people by their appearance. Have you ever witnessed someone abuse their authority simply because they thought no one important was watching? Downtown Seattle's premier shopping district buzzes with the energy of a typical Saturday afternoon. The gleaming storefronts of high-end boutiques reflect the city's tech wealth, while street performers and food trucks add vibrant life to the polished concrete sidewalks. This is where old money meets new fortune, where appearances matter, and where assumptions can prove deadly wrong. Zara Washington had started her day with pure excitement. At 17, she carried herself with the quiet confidence that comes from being raised right. Honor roll student, debate team captain, early admission to Stanford with a full academic scholarship. Today's mission was simple: find the perfect prom dress with money she'd earned from her part-time job at the community center. Her father had taught her to always keep receipts, always be polite, and always remember that how others treat you says nothing about your worth. She had no idea these lessons would be tested in the most public way possible. Officer Derek Martinez, 35 years old with 8 years on the force, saw the world through a very different lens. To him, this upscale district wasn't just a beat to patrol. It was territory to protect. In his mind, he was the guardian of order, the thin blue line between chaos and civilization. His personnel file contained 12 complaints from minority citizens, all dismissed as unfounded or unsubstantiated. Martinez had bigger ambitions. The detective promotion he'd been chasing for 2 years seemed within reach, especially if he could demonstrate his ability to maintain community standards. Today, he was partnered with Officer Jenny Sullivan, a 28-year-old rookie whose discomfort with his methods was becoming increasingly obvious. Sullivan had joined the force to serve and protect, inspired by community policing ideals she'd studied in criminal justice school. 3 months partnered with Martinez had shown her an uglier reality, one where prejudice masqueraded as procedure, where assumptions replaced investigation. She'd started documenting incidents in her personal journal, unsure what to do with her growing concerns. The call came in at 2:47 p.m. Suspicious activity reported at Bella's Boutique, 1247 Pine Street. Caller reports possible shoplifting in progress. Anonymous tip, as usual. Martinez had learned to pay attention to these calls. They usually came from concerned citizens who knew what belonged in their neighborhood and what didn't. At the state capitol, 12 miles away, Governor Marcus Washington was deep in an emergency budget session. As the state's first black governor, every decision carried extra weight. Every policy faced additional scrutiny. He'd built his political career on criminal justice reform and civil rights, rising from a community organizer to the state's highest office through decades of fighting systemic inequality. His phone sat silently on the conference table, switched to silent mode for the crucial negotiations. He had no idea that his daughter, whose identity he'd carefully protected from public attention for security reasons, was about to need him more than any constituent ever had. The governor's relationship with his daughter was his most treasured secret. To protect Zara from the political spotlight and potential threats, they'd agreed to keep their connection private. She attended school under heightened but discreet security, lived a relatively normal teenage life, and called him Dad only in private. The media knew he had a daughter but respected the family's privacy boundaries. Zara's phone contact list showed Dad connected to a number registered to the governor's office, but she'd never had reason to explain this to anyone. Why would she? Her father was just her father, the man who helped with homework, attended parent-teacher conferences, and taught her to stand tall no matter what the world threw at her. At Bella's boutique, store manager Rebecca Brooke was having a frustrating afternoon. The security system had been glitching all week, setting off false alarms randomly. Corporate kept promising a technician soon, but meanwhile she was dealing with embarrassed customers and malfunctioning sensors that wouldn't deactivate properly. When Zara selected a beautiful burgundy dress, $389, including tax, paid for with carefully saved $20 bills and her debit card, Rebecca had carefully removed what she thought were all the security tags. The transaction was clean, legitimate, recorded on multiple cameras. Zara left with her receipt, her bag, and a smile. 30 seconds later, the alarm screamed. The malfunction triggered the silent alarm that automatically contacted security services. By the time Rebecca realized her mistake with the sensor system, patrol cars were already en route. Martinez saw this as an opportunity, a chance to demonstrate the proactive policing that would surely impress his superiors. The afternoon crowd that had gathered was diverse. Tech workers grabbing weekend shopping, families with children, tourists exploring the district, local business owners taking breaks. Most had their phones ready, a generation raised on social media and viral videos. They sensed drama brewing but couldn't yet imagine how explosive this ordinary Saturday was about to become. Zara stood on the sidewalk, receipt in hand, confused by the alarm but confident in her innocence. She'd done nothing wrong. Her father had always told her that truth was her shield, that honesty would protect her from false accusations. She believed this completely. Martinez approached with the swagger of someone who believed he controlled the narrative. In his experience, situations like this followed predictable patterns. Make the arrest. Let the courts sort out the details. Move on to the next call. He'd done this dozens of times before without consequence. What neither Martinez nor anyone else in that crowd could have predicted was that this particular Saturday afternoon was about to become a masterclass in the dangerous assumptions people make about power, privilege, and who really matters in America. The pieces were all in place. An innocent teenager, an overeager cop, a crowd with cameras, and a father who happened to control the entire state's law enforcement apparatus. All that remained was for someone to light the fuse. The security alarm's shrill wail cuts through the afternoon air like a knife. Zara freezes on the sidewalk, her burgundy dress bag in one hand, receipt in the other, genuinely confused by the sudden commotion. She turns back toward Bella's boutique, thinking perhaps she should explain to the manager that she paid for everything. That's when Martinez's patrol car screeches to the curb. He steps out with the calculated swagger of someone who believes he owns the street. His hand rests casually on his radio as he surveys the scene. Young black girl, high-end boutique, alarm blaring. In his mind, the math is simple and the conclusion predetermined. "Step away from the bag and put your hands where I can see them," Martinez barks, his voice carrying the authority he spent 8 years perfecting. Zara complies immediately, raising her hands while still clutching her receipt. "Officer, there's been some mistake," she says, her voice calm and respectful, exactly as her father taught her. "I have my receipt right here. I paid for everything." Martinez doesn't even glance at the paper she's holding. "I know your type," he says loud enough for the growing crowd to hear, "probably using stolen credit cards anyway." Officer Sullivan emerges from the passenger side, her body language already showing discomfort. She'd seen this pattern before, Martinez making assumptions, jumping to conclusions, escalating situations that could be resolved with simple conversation. "Derek, maybe we should check with the store manager first," Sullivan suggests quietly. Martinez waves her off dismissively. "I've got this handled, rookie." Inside the boutique, Rebecca Brooke realizes her mistake. The security sensor hadn't been properly deactivated, a malfunction she'd been dealing with all week. She grabs the store's backup receipt printer and rushes toward the door, but freezes when she sees the police confrontation developing outside. The crowd is growing. Shoppers stop mid-stride, pulling out phones. Parents usher children to safe distances while keeping their cameras rolling. Everyone senses they're about to witness something significant. "Empty the bag," Martinez commands. "Slowly." Zara carefully removes the dress, still in its protective covering, and places it on the hood of the patrol car. The price tag is clearly visible, $389. Her receipt shows the exact same amount, same timestamp, same transaction number. Martinez examines neither. "Probably forged," he announces to no one in particular. "These organized retail theft rings are getting sophisticated." The accusation hits Zara like a physical blow. She's never stolen anything in her life. Her part-time job at the community center pays minimum wage, but she's been saving for months specifically for prom expenses. Every dollar in her account was earned through honest work. "Officer, you can verify the transaction with the store," Zara says, her voice beginning to show strain. "The manager saw me pay." Martinez turns to the growing crowd of onlookers, performing now for what he sees as his audience. This is what happens when people think they can come into decent neighborhoods and help themselves to whatever they want. Several people in the crowd shift uncomfortably. A few start recording more obviously. The energy is changing from curiosity to concern. Zara reaches for her phone, thinking she should call someone. Her father had always told her, "If you're ever in trouble and I can't be reached, call anyway. Leave a message. Help will come." Martinez sees the movement and reacts instantly. "Drop the phone." He knocks it from her hands with enough force that it skitters across the concrete, the screen cracking on impact. "No calling your dealer friends," he sneers. The phone lands face up near the curb. The cracked screen still shows the incoming call notification. Dad calling. But Martinez is too busy addressing the crowd to notice the specific caller ID details. That's when the second patrol car arrives. Martinez radios his backup. "Got another shoplifter. Young female, African-American, probably part of that organized retail theft ring we've been tracking." None of this is true, but the responding officers don't question his assessment. They see Martinez, they see the girl, they see the boutique alarm still wailing, and they assume guilt. Officer Sullivan watches her body camera recording every word, every gesture, every dangerous assumption. She's documenting something that feels wrong, but she doesn't yet realize she's recording what will become the most important evidence in her career. The crowd presses closer. Phones capture every angle. Social media posts begin with hashtags about police overreach and racial profiling. What Martinez doesn't know is that 12 miles away, a governor's emergency meeting is about to end early, and 3 black SUVs with state security detail are about to receive the most urgent dispatch of their careers. Martinez approaches Zara with handcuffs gleaming in the afternoon sun. The crowd's murmur grows louder. This feels wrong to everyone watching. A simple store alarm has somehow escalated to an arrest without any investigation, without any attempt to verify the obvious evidence sitting right there on the patrol car hood. "Turn around, hands behind your back," Martinez commands. "Officer, please," Zara says, her voice cracking slightly. "Just call the store manager. She can explain about the sensor malfunction. I have my receipt, my debit card transaction." The handcuffs click into place with a sound that seems to echo off every storefront. Zara's composure finally begins to crumble. This isn't how the world is supposed to work. This isn't the America her father has spent his career trying to build. Rebecca Brooke finally finds her courage and rushes out of the boutique, receipt printout in hand. "Officer! Officer, there's been a mistake!" Martinez barely glances at her. "Ma'am, please step back. These criminals forge receipts all the time. We've seen this scam before." "But I processed the transaction myself," Rebecca insists, waving the store's backup receipt. "The security system has been malfunctioning all week. She paid for everything legitimately." "Store managers get pressured to provide fake alibis," Martinez explains to his backup officers, speaking loud enough for the crowd to hear his expertise. "It's part of the organized retail theft operation." The backup officers nod along. They trust Martinez's experience, his reputation, his confident assessment of the situation. None of them question why a teenage girl would orchestrate an elaborate retail theft conspiracy for a single prom dress. Officer Sullivan steps closer to her partner. "Derek, the store manager is trying to tell us something important. Maybe we should—" "Sullivan, secure the perimeter," Martinez snaps. "Keep these people back while I handle the arrest." But the people don't want to be kept back. The crowd has grown to over 50 onlookers, and their energy is shifting from curious to angry. Someone shouts, "Let her call her parents!" Another voice adds, "Check the damn receipt!" Martinez feeds off the attention. In his mind, this public demonstration of authority will showcase his leadership qualities. He imagines his supervisors watching the news coverage later, impressed by his decisive action and crowd control. He begins searching through Zara's purse, dumping contents onto the sidewalk for everyone to see. Lipstick, wallet, car keys, gum, and then her Stanford acceptance letter, still crisp and official in its university envelope. Martinez examines the letter with theatrical skepticism. "Stanford University, huh?" He holds it up for the crowd to see. Probably fake, too. Affirmative action doesn't make you smart enough for Stanford. The crowd's reaction is immediate and visceral. Several people gasp audibly. A middle-aged woman calls out, "That's completely inappropriate." A teenager starts a live stream with the caption, "Police officer making racist comments." But Martinez is just getting started. He calls for juvenile transport, radio crackling with official-sounding codes and procedures. "I need a pickup for a robbery suspect minor and flight risk." None of these descriptors apply to Zara, but his fellow officers dutifully note them in their reports. Martinez is building a case file in real time, crafting a narrative that will justify his actions regardless of the evidence. A local news van pulls up to the curb. Reporter Sarah Kim emerges with her cameraman, drawn by social media posts about a police confrontation in the shopping district. She immediately recognizes the charged atmosphere. This isn't routine police work. Martinez sees the news camera and his performance intensifies. This is his moment to shine, to demonstrate the kind of proactive policing that earns promotions and commendations. "We've been tracking this organized retail theft ring for months," he announces to Sarah Kim's camera. "Today, we caught one of their operatives in the act." Sarah Kim is a veteran reporter who's covered enough police stories to recognize when something doesn't add up. She glances at the evidence spread across the patrol car hood. Receipts, transaction records, a Stanford acceptance letter, and none of it supports the officer's narrative. Meanwhile, Zara's cracked phone continues buzzing on the ground near the curb. The screen lights up repeatedly with incoming calls, but the damage from Martinez's knock has made it difficult to see the caller ID clearly. An elderly gentleman in the crowd notices the phone and picks it up, thinking to help. The screen is badly cracked, but he can make out enough to see "Dad" calling, and a number with an area code he recognizes as government offices. "Miss, your father is trying to reach you," he says, approaching the patrol car. Martinez snatches the phone away before Zara can respond. "No contact with accomplices during arrest," he declares. Then he looks at the cracked screen and laughs. "Dad calling from the governor's office? These kids think they're so clever with their fake contact names." He shows the phone to his backup officers, who chuckle along. "Look at this. She's got the governor programmed as Dad. Real original." But Sarah Kim freezes. She's covered state politics for 8 years. She's interviewed Governor Marcus Washington dozens of times. That phone number showing on the cracked screen, she recognizes it as the governor's direct emergency line. Martinez, still playing to his audience, decides to answer the phone himself. "Washington residents, criminal speaking," he says in a mocking tone that carries across the entire crowd. The voice that responds is calm, professional, and immediately recognizable to several people in the gathering crowd. "This is Governor Marcus Washington. I've been trying to reach my daughter Zara for the past hour. She was supposed to check in after shopping. Is this her phone?" The crowd goes dead silent. Sarah Kim turns pale. Rebecca Brooke covers her mouth in shock. Officer Sullivan's eyes widen as she realizes what's happening. But Martinez, drunk on his own authority and convinced this is an elaborate prank, doubles down. Yeah, right. And I'm the president. Tell your governor daddy that his little princess is going to county lockup for retail theft. He hangs up. The silence that follows is deafening. Sarah Kim immediately starts making calls to verify what she just heard. Several people in the crowd recognize the governor's voice from radio interviews and television appearances. At the state capitol, Governor Marcus Washington stares at his phone in disbelief. The emergency budget meeting has just concluded, but this is now his only priority. He speed dials his security detail. Code Red Family Emergency. Downtown Seattle, Bella's Boutique, Pine Street. Move now. 3 black SUVs with state security details screech out of the Capitol parking garage. Emergency lights flash. Radio chatter fills multiple frequencies. ETA. 8 minutes. Back at the scene, Martinez loads Zara into the patrol car as the crowd's protests grow louder. Officer Sullivan quietly documents everything on her body cam, a growing sense of dread settling in her stomach. Sarah Kim approaches Martinez one more time. Officer, I think you need to know that the voice on that phone... No media statements until booking is complete, Martinez cuts her off. This is an ongoing investigation. He slams the patrol car door and prepares to drive away, completely unaware that he has just made the most catastrophic mistake of his career. The crowd watches in stunned silence as the patrol car pulls away from the curb. But 3 blocks away, emergency sirens begin wailing, growing louder by the second. In exactly 8 minutes, Martinez would learn the most expensive lesson of his career, and Zara Washington would discover that sometimes the cavalry really does arrive just in time. The first black SUV appears at the end of Pine Street like something out of a movie. Tinted windows, government plates, the kind of vehicle that makes traffic part automatically. Behind it, 2 more identical SUVs form a convoy that brings the busy shopping district to a complete standstill. Martinez has driven exactly 3 blocks when the radio crackles with an emergency override that freezes his blood. All units code red priority. State security detail requesting immediate location of Patrol Unit 447. Governor's family emergency in progress. He glances at his radio display. Unit 447. That's him. The patrol car is surrounded before he can process what's happening. State security personnel emerge from the SUVs with the kind of professional precision that makes local police look like mall security guards. These aren't ordinary bodyguards. They're trained protection specialists who treat threats to the governor's family as matters of national security. Through his rearview mirror, Martinez watches a man step out of the middle SUV. Tall, commanding presence, wearing casual clothes but carrying unmistakable authority. The kind of person who doesn't need a uniform to make everyone around him stand straighter. Governor Marcus Washington. The color drains from Martinez's face as recognition hits him like a physical blow. The campaign posters, the news interviews, the state police briefings. This is actually the governor of Washington State, and he's walking directly toward Martinez's patrol car with barely controlled fury. Officer Sullivan, who had been following in the second patrol car, whispers into her radio, "Oh my God." "Derek, that's actually Governor Washington. That's actually him." The crowd that had been dispersing after the arrest now swarms back, phones raised, sensing that they're about to witness something extraordinary. Sarah Kim's cameraman captures every second as the governor approaches the patrol car where Zara sits in handcuffs. Governor Washington's voice carries the weight of absolute authority when he speaks. "Officer Martinez, I believe you have my daughter in your patrol car." Martinez's hands shake as he steps out of the vehicle. His earlier confidence has evaporated completely, replaced by the dawning realization that his career, his pension, his entire future has just imploded in the span of 30 seconds. "Sir, there must be some mistake," Martinez stammers. "This suspect was involved in organized retail theft. My daughter's name is Zara Washington." The governor cuts him off, his voice steady but carrying the kind of controlled anger that makes seasoned politicians step back. "She's 17 years old, Honor student, debate team captain, early admission to Stanford University. She was shopping for her prom dress with money she earned from her part-time job at the community center. The governor pauses, letting each word sink in before delivering the knockout blow. Now explain to me why my daughter is sitting in handcuffs in the back of your patrol car. Rebecca Brooke rushes forward from her boutique, transaction records clutched in her hands like evidence at a trial. Governor Washington, I can confirm everything. Your daughter made completely legitimate purchases in my store. She paid with her own debit card and cash. The alarm malfunction was our fault. Our security system has been glitching all week. She hands him the receipts, the transaction logs, even pulls up security footage on her tablet showing Zara's entire shopping experience. She did absolutely nothing wrong, sir, nothing at all. The crowd of witnesses that Martinez had dismissed as irrelevant suddenly becomes a jury of his peers. One by one, they step forward with their phone recordings, their testimonies, their documentation of every word he'd spoken. A middle-aged business owner speaks up. Governor, I recorded the officer's racial comments about your daughter and Stanford University. He said affirmative action doesn't make people smart enough for Stanford. A teenager holds up her phone. I got him mocking you when you called. He said, tell your governor daddy that his little princess is going to county lockup. Sarah Kim approaches with her professional camera equipment. Governor Washington, I have complete audio and video documentation of this entire incident, including Officer Martinez's response when you called your daughter's phone. The reporter plays back the recording, and Martinez's mocking voice echoes across the silent street. Yeah, right, and I'm the president. Tell your governor daddy that his little princess is going to county lockup for retail theft. The sound of his own words, played back in front of the governor himself, makes Martinez visibly shrink. He realizes that every assumption he'd made, every stereotype he'd applied, every power play he'd attempted has been captured and documented by dozens of witnesses. Governor Washington turns to address the crowd and cameras, but his words are clearly meant for a much larger audience. What you witnessed today wasn't just an attack on my daughter. It was an attack on every young person of color who's been presumed guilty simply for existing in spaces where others think they don't belong. The crowd erupts in spontaneous applause. The energy shifts completely, from anger at injustice to celebration of accountability. People start chanting, "Justice for Zara," and "No more racial profiling." Police Captain Rodriguez arrives on scene, summoned by the governor's security detail. His face shows the expression of someone who knows his department is about to become front-page news for all the wrong reasons. Governor Washington, I sincerely apologize, he begins. Captain, save your apologies for the reform plan I expect on my desk Monday morning, the governor responds. Right now, I want Officer Martinez and his partner suspended pending a full investigation. Martinez tries one last desperate attempt to save his career. Sir, I was following standard procedures for suspected retail theft. Standard procedures? Governor Washington's voice rises for the first time. Standard procedures include refusing to examine receipts? Standard procedures include making racist comments about Stanford University? Standard procedures include mocking a parent trying to reach his child. Officer Sullivan steps forward, her body camera still recording. Governor Washington, I documented everything on my body cam. Officer Martinez refused to follow proper procedure multiple times. He made statements that violate department policy and basic human decency. Her decision to speak up transforms her from complicit observer to key witness. The crowd recognizes her courage and begins applauding her as well. Captain Rodriguez immediately radios for internal affairs. I need IA units to Pine Street immediately. We have officers to be suspended and evidence to secure. As Martinez's handcuffs are removed and handed to internal affairs investigators, the irony isn't lost on anyone present. The same handcuffs that had wrongly restrained an innocent teenager now properly restrain an officer who abused his authority. Zara finally emerges from the patrol car, her dignity intact despite the trauma. The crowd cheers as she's reunited with her father, but she maintains the composure that had impressed everyone throughout the ordeal. Governor Washington embraces his daughter, and for a moment the powerful politician disappears, replaced by a father whose child was in danger. "Are you okay, sweetheart?"
"I'm okay, Dad,"
Zara responds, though her voice carries the weight of what she's experienced. "I did everything you taught me. I stayed calm, I was respectful, I had my receipts." "You were perfect," he tells her. "This was never about what you did or didn't do. This was about someone else's prejudice and assumptions." Sarah Kim's live news feed has already gone viral. #Justice for Zara begins trending nationally within minutes. The footage of Martinez's arrest starts spreading across every social media platform. The governor addresses the cameras one final time. "This incident will not be swept under the rug. My administration will conduct a full investigation, not just into today's events, but into the systemic issues that allowed this to happen. Every citizen of this state deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their race, age, or perceived social status." As Internal Affairs leads Martinez away, he passes the same crowd he had tried to perform for just an hour earlier. Their phones capture his walk of shame, the complete reversal of power that transforms authority into accountability. The shopping district that had been a site of humiliation becomes a place of justice. The community that witnessed discrimination now celebrates the consequences of prejudice. And somewhere in the crowd, an elderly man who had tried to help Zara with her phone smiles and thinks about how assumptions can destroy careers in an instant when the truth finally comes to light. The handcuffs fall away from Zara's wrists with a metallic click that seems to echo across the entire shopping district. For the first time in over an hour, she can move her arms freely, rub the red marks where the metal had pressed too tightly, and truly breathe again. The contrast is striking and intentional. Where Martinez had roughly shoved her into the patrol car, the governor's security detail treated her with professional respect and genuine concern. They offer her water, ask if she needs medical attention, and create a protective barrier between her and the still-growing crowd of onlookers and media. Governor Washington wraps his daughter in an embrace that speaks volumes about their relationship. This isn't a political photo opportunity. This is a father who genuinely feared for his child's safety and well-being. The powerful politician who commands respect from world leaders becomes simply a dad whose teenager was in trouble. "I'm so proud of how you handled yourself," he tells her quietly, away from the microphones. "You showed them exactly who you are." The immediate aftermath moves with swift precision. Captain Rodriguez, already on his phone with Internal Affairs, announces the preliminary actions being taken. Officer Martinez is suspended without pay effective immediately. A full investigation will begin Monday morning. Officer Sullivan will be temporarily reassigned pending review of her role in these events. Martinez's consequences cascade rapidly. The patrol car is impounded as evidence. His body cam and dash cam footage are secured by investigators. Most damaging of all, his previous cases involving minority defendants are now flagged for mandatory review. The 12 complaints that had been dismissed as unfounded are suddenly very much worth investigating. Officer Sullivan makes a choice that will define the rest of her career. Approaching Governor Washington directly, she removes her body camera and hands it to him personally. "Sir, everything is documented here. Every word, every action, every violation of protocol. I want to make sure you have the complete record." Her decision to side with justice over loyalty earns respectful nods from the crowd. Several people approach her to shake her hand, recognizing the courage it takes to stand up to a partner's misconduct. The community response is immediate and powerful. Rebecca Brooke emerges from her boutique with a formal statement. Bella's boutique apologizes unreservedly to Zara Washington and her family. "We're implementing new staff training on security systems and customer relations. More importantly, we're committing to speak up in future situations rather than remaining silent when we witness injustice." Local business owners who had watched the incident unfold from their storefronts now step forward with offers of support. The owner of the bookstore next door presents Zara with a gift card and a handwritten note. The coffee shop manager offers free drinks for her and her friends whenever they visit the district. These gestures matter because they transform the site of humiliation into a place of community support. The shopping district that had felt hostile an hour ago now feels welcoming, protective, determined to ensure this never happens again. Sarah Kim's professional journalism turns the incident into a teaching moment for the entire state. Her interviews with witnesses, her careful documentation of the timeline, and her analysis of the systemic issues involved help frame this as more than just one bad officer making poor choices. This incident highlights the importance of accountability at every level, Sarah reports to her live television audience. When citizens have the courage to record injustice, when fellow officers have the integrity to report misconduct, and when leaders respond swiftly to violations of civil rights, the system can work as intended. The national response builds throughout the afternoon. Civil rights organizations point to the incident as an example of both the problem and the solution. The NAACP issues a statement praising Zara's composure and the governor's swift action, while calling for similar accountability measures in other jurisdictions. Social media transforms the story into a movement. Justice for Zara becomes a rallying cry for young people who've experienced similar treatment. #accountability matters trends alongside it, focusing on the systemic changes needed to prevent future incidents. But perhaps most importantly, the story sparks conversations in families across the country. Parents discuss with their children what to do when confronted by police. They talk about the importance of staying calm, knowing your rights, and remembering that how others treat you says nothing about your worth. Governor Washington announces concrete policy changes that will emerge from this incident. We're establishing a scholarship fund for students affected by police misconduct. We're proposing new legislation requiring body cameras for all interactions with minors. And we're creating a civilian oversight board with real authority to investigate and discipline officers who violate citizens' rights. The ripple effects extend beyond policy. Police departments across the state begin reviewing their training protocols. The incident becomes a case study in what not to do, used in police academies to teach proper procedure and the consequences of assumption-based policing. For Zara personally, the experience becomes a catalyst for advocacy. Despite the trauma, she chooses to speak publicly about what happened, becoming a voice for other young people who face discrimination without powerful family connections to protect them. "I was lucky," she tells reporters. "I had my father's protection and resources that most people don't have access to. But every teenager deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of who their parents are or aren't." Her Stanford acceptance letter, which Martinez had mocked as probably fake, becomes a symbol of perseverance in the face of prejudice. The university itself issues a statement supporting Zara and announcing a new initiative to address bias in college admissions and campus life. The shopping district itself undergoes a transformation. What could have become a site associated with injustice instead becomes a symbol of community strength and accountability. Local artists create a small memorial to civil rights that turns the exact spot where Zara was handcuffed into a place of reflection and commitment to justice. The healing isn't immediate, but it's real. Governor Washington returns to the district with Zara a month later, not for political purposes, but simply to shop together as father and daughter. The warm reception they receive from business owners and customers alike demonstrates how a community can choose to learn and grow from trauma rather than simply try to forget it. Officer Sullivan, after her temporary assignment ends, requests permanent transfer to the Community Relations Division. Her experience documenting the incident inspires her to become an advocate for police reform from within the department. She starts teaching courses on bias recognition and proper procedure that become mandatory for all officers. The final piece of healing comes when Zara attends her prom 6 weeks later, wearing the burgundy dress that started everything. Her father accompanies her to the pre-prom photos, and this time, their relationship is public knowledge. and a source of pride rather than something to be hidden for security reasons. The dress that had been treated as evidence of a crime becomes evidence of something far more powerful: a young woman's refusal to let others' prejudice diminish her dreams or her dignity. This story isn't really about one police officer's spectacular fall from grace, though Martinez's career destruction serves as a satisfying example of instant justice. It's about something far more fundamental: the dangerous assumptions we make about people based on their appearance, and the catastrophic consequences when those assumptions meet unchecked authority. Martinez believed he could judge Zara's worth by her race and age. He assumed no one important was watching. He thought his badge granted him the right to humiliate and criminalize an innocent teenager without consequence. In our interconnected world, he was wrong on every count. But here's the deeper truth. This happens every day across America to young people who don't have governors for fathers. They face the same prejudice, the same assumptions, the same abuse of power, but without the protection of wealth, political connections, or social media virality to save them. The real heroes of this story aren't the powerful figures who arrived to rescue Zara. They're the ordinary citizens who chose to record injustice, the store manager who found her courage to speak the truth, and the rookie officer who prioritized conscience over career loyalty. They represent the everyday actions that can transform isolated incidents into movements for change. Officer Sullivan's decision to document everything and testify against her partner demonstrates that systems change when individuals inside them choose integrity over convenience. Her body camera footage became the evidence that ensured accountability, proof that technology only serves justice when people have the courage to use it properly. The community's response reveals another crucial lesson. Bystanders have power. Every person who pulled out their phone, every witness who stayed to testify, every business owner who offered support afterward contributed to the ultimate outcome. Injustice thrives in silence and darkness. It withers under documentation and collective action. For young people watching this story, Zara's composure under pressure offers a masterclass in maintaining dignity while protecting yourself. She knew her rights, kept her receipts, stayed respectful despite provocation, and trusted that truth would eventually prevail. These aren't just survival tactics. They're life skills that serve anyone navigating a world where assumptions and prejudice still shape daily interactions. Governor Washington's response illustrates leadership that transforms crisis into opportunity for systematic change. Rather than simply rescuing his daughter and walking away, he used his position to address the broader issues that made her experience possible. Real change requires leaders who see individual incidents as symptoms of larger problems requiring comprehensive solutions. The ripple effects continue expanding months later. Police departments nationwide now study this incident in training programs. The #Justice for Zara movement inspired similar accountability efforts in dozens of cities. Most importantly, families across America had difficult but necessary conversations about race, power, and justice that might never have happened otherwise. But perhaps the most powerful lesson emerges from a simple question. What if Zara hadn't been the governor's daughter? What if she'd been any other 17-year-old facing the same prejudice and abuse of power? Would the crowd have recorded with equal intensity? Would the media have responded as quickly? Would justice have been served swiftly? These questions challenge every viewer to consider their own role in creating a society where justice depends on merit rather than connections, where dignity is universal rather than privileged, where accountability applies equally regardless of who's watching. The rewatch trigger in this story isn't just Martinez's face when he realizes his mistake. It's the moment each viewer asks themselves what they would have done in that crowd. Would you have recorded? Would you have spoken up? Would you have stepped forward as a witness when justice needed your voice? Your answer to those questions matters more than any hashtag or social media post, because real change happens when ordinary people make extraordinary choices in everyday moments. The next time you witness someone being treated unfairly because of assumptions about their race, age, or background, remember Zara's story. Remember that your phone can be a tool of justice. Remember that your voice can make the difference between injustice ignored and accountability achieved. Share this story if you believe that authority must come with accountability, that dignity belongs to everyone regardless of their background, and that each of us has the power to stand up for what's right when it matters most. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more real-life stories of quiet power creating loud change. These touching stories of resilience, intelligence, and transformation need to be heard. Hit that notification bell, because when we amplify Black stories, we change the narrative for everyone. The question isn't whether you'll encounter injustice in your community. You will. The question is whether you'll have the courage to do something about it when the moment comes. Because in the end, we don't need more governors to create justice. We need more citizens willing to act like Officer Sullivan, like the witnesses who stayed to testify, like the community that chose healing over hatred. What will you choose when your moment comes?